Brian writes, Dear TWIV, thank you for being there with scientific wisdom along with your passion for the scientific enterprise. This is especially relevant as the nation's sciences are brutally attacked. I'd like to share a letter I sent to the governors of the 7 Democratic-led states with the largest GDPs. They may not have political power, but they have fiscal power and need to use it. Dear Governor, you belong to a group that can save the world, the Magnificent Seven. You lead one of 7 Democratic states that together account for 38% of the U.S. GDP, the 3rd largest economy in the world. Of all of the Trump administration's destructive attacks, its impounding of 40%, $20 billion of NIH funding is the worst. NIH is the linchpin of U.S. scientific leadership. The Magnificent Seven can save critical scientific research by backfilling 38% of this lost funding. If each state in the Magnificent Seven increases taxes by 1.86% on incomes of at least $1 million, together that will account for the 38%. The administration's impoundment is illegal. States can claw back the funding they provide. This is important. Any recovered funding will be returned to the wealthy taxpayers. By acting in unison, states will make a difference. Their common action makes sacrifice shared. It mutes each state's right-wing attacks. By ensuring taxes will be returned if funds are restored, the wealthy will seek to have NIH funding restored. Each state has its own problems politicians want to increase funding for, but their constituents are concerned about national issues. They will understand a temporary tax paid by people with incomes of at least $1 million is for science across America. There are over 400,000 people with incomes of at least $1 million in the 7 states. That's well over half of all such people in America. All of the 7 can enact this tax, even California, where Democrats have the 2/3 majorities needed. Rise to the challenge and join in a Magnificent 7 states that demonstrate Democrats can act aggressively and imaginatively. Triage will be necessary since 38% of funding is restored, but this is enough to maintain scientific momentum. Thank you for your dedicated service and thoughtful heroism. Sincerely, etc. Perhaps others can encourage these states to take scientific leadership.
Wow. That's a real interesting approach.
Yeah.
I think most of these people with that income are Republicans.
So if you tax them and then say you'll get your money back if you get rid of these cuts.
Yeah,
I think
I like the idea.
Yeah.
Time for letters, but I want to read just one because remember last time we had Brian who wants us to write letters to the states with the highest GDP. You guys were on, Kathy, you were on the last one.
Yes.
I wasn't there, but
yes,
I'm aware
it's
of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to know what the states were because he said the top 7 states, the Magnificent 7, represent 38% of U.S. GDP, equivalent to the world's 3rd largest economy. So he drafted a letter that he suggests listeners send to the leaders of these states. And I wrote and I asked him, what are the states? So they are California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Washington, and New Jersey. And Michigan is number 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in the top,
right?
The Magnificent 7. But the whole point of this letter is that, 40% of NIH funding is being cut. So he suggests a 1.86% tax increase on incomes exceeding $1 million in these 7 states, which would generate revenues to backfill 38% of the impounded NIH funding. And he says there are over 400,000 people with 1 million plus incomes across the 7 states. I'm not one of them, that's for sure.
No, not me.
And so he thinks this would temporarily go, backfill the NIH budget, and then when it gets reversed, if ever, then they could get a refund, I guess. So anyway, folks, if you want to write, this is now, you can tell what states are here.
Right. And this from Brian has the whole letter again that he's proposing sending to the leadership in those 7 states. And it's an interesting proposal because those people who are going to get taxed would say, oh, I don't want to get taxed. So then they would potentially lobby for changes in the NIH funding.
Yeah.
Anyway, that will be in our Soul letter this week. So if you want to do that.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
This tells you who can do it, right? Because you needed to know what state.
Yeah.
So thanks for sending that back. Okay.